Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. My name is McPato and this is McPato PC. And this week we just wrapped up, today's Friday, Computex 2018 has just wrapped up. And as usual, there's been a lot of really interesting stories that have come out of Computex. And a lot of great products that have been revealed, which we can expect to come out in the next 3 to 10 or so months. So really it gives us a good indication of where the industry is headed and what products we can look forward to in the next few months. I've picked 7 of my favorite stories from the past week and I'm going to highlight them in this video. It's just going to be a brief overview of those stories. There'll be links down in the description below, along with probably a few extra ones following the 7 main stories that I'm going to bring up. So if you guys want to look into any of those additional stories, they'll be linked in the description below as well. Alright guys, we're going to jump right in with the first story. And the first story is that Intel confirmed its special edition 8086 processor to celebrate the 40th anniversary since their first processor, the 8086, which came out just before the 8088, which was featured in the first IBM personal computers. So in summary, this is a processor that is very similar to the 8700K, with the exception that it comes with a base clock of 4 GHz and will boost up to 5 GHz out of the box. If you're looking for more specifications on that particular processor, again, description down below. I'll take you to a Kit Guru article and has a bit more information for you there. The number 2 story is not much of a story, but a lot of people were speculating that Nvidia would release, or at least talk about, their next GPU family, and that did not happen. Journalists, of course, did ask about that, and Mr. Jensen replied that there would be no new GPUs for a long time. So for anyone thinking that this would mark the anniversary or the launch of a new product line from Nvidia, unfortunately that was not the case, and clearly that would leave some people disappointed. You know, maybe he was being facetious and wanted to deflect the attention back to what they were talking about, or maybe it will actually be a long time. Whatever your definition, though, it doesn't sound like we can expect anything until at least the 3rd quarter of 2018 as far as announcements go. And as we know, the Vega 64 came up a little short in terms of competing with the 1080 Ti from Nvidia, so they don't really have a whole lot of reason to come out with their new product line just yet. So I guess we're gonna have to stay tuned for more news from Nvidia regarding their new GPUs. The 3rd story I want to talk about is that Asus is releasing a new phone. It's called the Asus ROG Phone, and it does look pretty interesting. For anyone interested in that, I'm putting a link directly to the Asus website. This phone, besides having some really nice hardware and really great cameras, will come with a variety, or will be available with a variety of accessories, including what looks to me like a Nintendo Switch sort of, you know, Joy-Cons or whatever they're called there, with the buttons and the directional pad and so on, that you can stick on either end of the device or on both ends. Also, it will come with a docking station accessory as an option. Seems to be a focus on gaming, obviously. It's going to have a gigabit Ethernet. So the display is a 6-inch 2160 by 1080 AMOLED display with a 90 Hz refresh rate, 1 millisecond pixel response time, 108.6% DCI P3 color gamut, and a 10,000 to 1 contrast ratio. It's going to have the Qualcomm Adreno 630 GPU, and the processor will be an exclusive 2.96 gigahertz octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 mobile chip. It's going to have 8 gigabytes of RAM, as well as either 128 or 512 gigabytes of storage. I don't know if that depends on whether you're using the docking station or not. Bluetooth 5.0. So yeah, it's got some pretty compelling features. A 4,000 milliamp battery, and so it'll charge to 60% capacity in only 33 minutes and get 85% battery charge in just over an hour. So definitely some quick charging technology at play there. So anyone interested in a new phone, one that is good for gaming, might want to check out the Asus ROG Phone, and again, that's linked down in the description below. Moving along to the fourth story, Cooler Master. They actually released several new products, or talked about, showcased, whatever, in terms of coolers, CPU coolers at the show. Two in particular stood out. The first one is what they call a hybrid thermoelectric cooler, and what that is, to my understanding, is basically an AIO that also incorporates an electric cooling unit that will lower the temperature of your liquid to below ambient. So basically a refrigerator unit. There's some technology there that will help prevent condensation on the components to avoid obviously damaging your computer. So it's a pretty interesting cooler, and they say it will help cool up to 300 watts TDP. So it's being aimed obviously at extreme overclocking or Intel Skylake X chips, perhaps. Anything that runs hot, they're saying this would be able to cool it. So something to keep an eye on, perhaps, if you're into extreme overclocking. As well, they also released a new air cooler called the Threadripper for AMD Threadripper 2. It has the potential to air cool processors up to 250 watts TDP, such as the Threadripper 2, which I'll talk about in just a minute here. So they're saying it's not suitable for overclocking the Threadripper 2 or Threadripper 1 perhaps, but on stock settings and clock speeds it apparently is adequate, and it was the cooler that AMD chose to use with the Threadripper 2 during their demonstration. So it does appear that it does a really good job of cooling, although we didn't see the temperatures. There were no issues with the demonstration, and everything seemed fine. Alright guys, we're going to move along to story number 5, which is an Intel story, and a bit of a controversy actually. This is a pretty juicy story. I believe on day 1 of Computex 2018, Intel announced that they would be releasing a 28-core 5 gigahertz processor, and that it would be coming out in Q4 of 2018. Initially, that obviously generated a lot of buzz from a lot of tech reporters. However, upon closer inspection, it appears that this is not as it seems. An article that I'm linking for you guys, it's up to date. It's from June 7th, so it's the latest we have on this. But effectively, Intel is saying that they forgot to mention that the CPU in question was overclocked, that it won't come at 5 gigahertz, and they also forgot to mention that it was using basically a refrigeration unit to cool it. Effectively, it's a 1,000 watt plus cooler that was hidden under the table. If you look carefully at some of the photos, you can see a rather large pipe or hose coming out the back of the computer that is insulated. It made it look almost like it was liquid cooled, but if you look closer, well, it is liquid cooled, but like air conditioner liquid cooled. They had like a traditional liquid cooling setup in the actual case, so it looked like normal cooling, or enthusiast class cooling, but not 1,000 watt plus air conditioner under the table cooling the CPU. So the presentation as a whole was pretty much meant to deceive people. Day one at Computex, perhaps they heard that AMD was coming out with a higher core count on their Threadripper, felt some pressure and came up with this idea. But it gets even worse. They've basically said that this was a new CPU that was coming out, and it turns out that that is not the case. The processor in question is believed to be an existing Xeon Platinum Scalable 8180, or variety of that processor, that currently sells for about $10,000. So probably not going to be affordable for most people. And why they chose to make it seem, they had a young guy on stage with what looked like a gaming type headset, so it almost looked like they were sort of aiming this at enthusiast gamers, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at the facts, which they're saying the system probably was consuming in excess of 2,300 watts when you consider the cooler. So I mean, that would leave about 1,000 watts for the system itself. Really not a practical setup for most people, and at the end of the day, pretty shady the way they presented it. And after being caught, they said they forgot to mention. Again, that's a good article down there, guys, in the description from Tom's Hardware. I recommend you check it out. Pretty good, and give that a read. You'll see sort of some more of the shady stuff that was done and how it was presented as genuine, when in fact there's nothing retail about this product and you're never going to see it. So pretty interesting. Finally, moving on to number 6. Threadripper 2 was announced on day 3 of Computex, and this was pretty exciting. It is going to come in up to 32 cores, 64 threads. They also mentioned a 24 core, 48 thread, presumably variety of Threadripper 2. It's going to have a TDP of around 250 watts, and I would suspect you're going to have other varieties or other variants as well. I'm thinking probably it'll start around 12 cores, 24 threads, and 16 cores, 32 threads, but maybe that 12 core one won't exist. AMD did confirm through one of their representatives in an interview that probably Threadripper 1 will coexist with Threadripper 2 for a while. They also confirmed that the 16-core variant of Threadripper is the most popular of the 3 current models. So I would think they're going to either refresh it with Threadripper 2, or they're going to come out with a new 12 nanometer version of the 16-core Threadripper. Along with the new Threadripper 2 CPUs, there's going to be apparently a refresh of the X99 platform. Though you won't need to buy a new motherboard, you'll be able to use existing X399 motherboards. There will be some new ones with a few new features, and notably there's an MSI Creation board and a Gigabyte Aorus board that I saw that look pretty cool. If you guys want to look more into those, I'll try to link that in the description below as well. And finally, story number 7, 7 nanometer AMD Radeon Vega GPUs are coming out shortly. According to AMD, they will be out in the second half of 2018. They're currently sampling the the GPU. These are the world's first 7nm GPUs, and according to AMD, they have twice the density, 2 times the power efficiency, and 1.35 times the performance of Vega 64 or 14nm Vega. It will also come with 32 gigabytes of HBM2, and it looks pretty good. There was also a mention that AMD is going to be releasing a new product every year, presumably aimed at gamers. So they're saying that there's Vega 7nm, there's Navi 7nm, and then there'll be a next gen card. Navi is supposed to come out in 2019, next gen 2020 or close to it, maybe late 2019. There's a bit of confusion on the exact timeline, but they are committing to releasing a new GPU every year for the next 3 years or so. And that's going to conclude this video. Hopefully you found it interesting. Hopefully you liked one or more of these stories. And again, of course, if you want more details, down in the description below you'll find everything you need, direct to the articles that I got the information from. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. As always, if you liked the video, hit the like button. And if you like my videos in general, or you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel. And if you do, I appreciate the support as always. Okay, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Again, McPato saying goodbye.